You ready?
Roll call.
Chairman Kelly.
Present.
Legislator Quackenbush.
Present.
Legislator Diamond. Legislator Whites.
Present.
Legislator Beniak.
Here.
Legislator Duchesny.
Here.
Legislator Wheeler.
Here.
Legislator Isabel.
Here.
Legislator Patel.
Here.
Terry, will you read us the pledge?
Sure. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The purpose of this meeting is to discuss and approve awards for the public safety facility expansion. So, first resolution is a resolution. Well, first of all, do you want to give us a?
I'd love to.
Yeah.
Okay, so we were, and Paul speak with some of the more of the specifics, but we've been operating on a pretty tight timeline trying to get the building up and closed before the snow hits, so we can then do the inside work that needs to be done over the winter and complete the project in March. Paul can go over some of the details of that. And when we scheduled this special meeting, we had not opened the bids, but we knew that a special meeting would be required at this point to authorize me to sign the contract since they were over the threshold, so we could stay on that timeline. We've had a bump in the road as far as the bids. 3 out of the 4 bids came in under what the projections were from our architectural firm, but unfortunately, the general contracting bid came in over, significantly over, $500,000 over. Certainly, I can say that I'm frustrated by that, as we were very upfront at the beginning that we wanted realistic projections and we did not want to be surprised like we just were when we opened the bids. But at that point right now is neither here nor there. I'm certainly upset. I'm sure there's going to be frustration amongst the legislature, and I share those frustrations. But we are now at a point of, because of that timeline, if it is the desire of the legislature to stick with the current timeline, action is required either tonight or at the very latest a week. If we want to put it off and rebid in the spring, that's an option, but that's a whole new timeline, and we can talk about what that would be. But that's the general crux of where we are. I think maybe now would be a good time for Paul to talk with some of the specifics, as with it, related to timeline, costs, stuff like that. There has been work being done already. We've been relocating a fence and doing a number of things up at the site in preparation. However, this has put a little, certainly a kink in the plans. Option A is to, fund the $400,000 shortfall and move forward, revisit in the spring, or not do the project at all. Those are our 3 options at this point. That is for your consideration. Paul, you can take it from here.
Yeah, I think part of the packet that Matt handed out, you'll see 2 letters, one from the architect and one from the construction manager, Dwayne Chaff. Basically, they both did a post-bid review of the bids and the project. A number of factors, including the volume of work that's out there, the time of the year, the scheduling, things like that, is what they're attributing the increase in the bids for. I guess the one, my initial question is, okay, if we wait till spring, are we going to get better numbers? And they're not highly optimistic that we would, only because now you're looking at another increase in labor and materials will go up. But they both did a review of the bid, the low bidders, their qualifications, and things like You know, the whole reason for the special meeting is we are kind of on a timeline, whereas if the bids were awarded today, the contracts would be prepared between today and the 26th, with the pre-construction meeting held on August 31st, mobilization and work would begin on September 1st, with the enclosure completed December 8th. So that, kind of the whole reason for pursuing this is December 8th is getting late in the season. You know, we have an awful lot of years where we don't have snow on the ground for Christmas, but there's no way. So if everything was to get pushed back a week, if that's a consideration, you would be looking at December 15th.
Just a really short, easy question. Who's going to be doing construction inspection? Is it Wayne Schaff or CT or?
Wayne Schaff would be doing the construction inspection.
Okay. Thank you.
Other than there is a special inspector that the county is required to hire separate from everybody else under New York State Building Code for some of the steel inspections and things like that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. While this is disappointing that the numbers aren't what we expected, this isn't altogether completely surprising. This has happened with construction. This is something, it's a project that I support. I think we have to go forward. And if December 8th is the projection, and if they say that this is the numbers that they're set with, and with no surprises, I would be in support. I don't want to wait and stop as of right now, because the next step would be going forward with the inside, because this is a project that would be benefit the county. Was there any forward or any previous notion that this could have happened before we knew?
Right up until the morning of the bid opening, I've had obviously a number of conversations, daily conversations with the architect. The document that you have that had my handwritten numbers on the side of it, the construction manager prepared independent of the architect prior to the bid, and they were both in line with us being able to be in, under budget. So as of last Tuesday morning, the day of the bid opening, they were still confident that the bids were going to be on or below budget.
It's one of the reasons.
And 3 of the 4 were. It's just the general construction contract was the largest contract, and that was 20% off.
I'm just going to say it's one of the reasons why in the past we've gone for bids that were a little bit higher. But I thank you very much.
Terry? And then Joe.
So the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing came in under the proposed price, correct?
Yes.
Doesn't it seem odd that the general contractor's way out of line with his bid? You know,
I'm not sure that it's odd, but obviously it was definitely surprising.
And because I only got this about 10 minutes ago, could you give me the Reader's Digest version of why he bid what he bid? You know, why is it higher than what was expected?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, so, some of the factors were touched upon, I think, in Wayne Schaff's letter was, you know, the current economic conditions, the current workload, the time of the year that we were bidding it.
I'm sorry, I didn't want to interrupt. Wasn't this engineer aware of the current conditions and the time of year that it is?
Well, I guess there was.
That doesn't seem like an excuse to me. Hang on for 1 second here. Because back in May, person who signed this letter here, Richard Content, he came here and he made a presentation. And he told us the budget was on track. And as I recall, I asked him at the time, how can you possibly say that when we haven't even gone out to bid yet? Well, he gave me a whole list of reasons why he could assure that this wasn't going to come in over. I remember that. Do you remember that?
I do.
Okay. So then, okay, I think the last question that I asked him was, haven't you ever experienced these bids coming in higher than you anticipated? He said that was never his experience. So now, some of us are not surprised. I think we should be surprised, and he's never experienced this before. At the very least, he should be surprised, don't you think? This is going to go forward without my vote. I'm not showing up last minute being handed an extra $400,000 to vote on. And at the very least, I would expect this engineer to be here to tell us the same story that you're relating about the time of year and all those other excuses. This is wrong. This is wrong. And this is done very, that man had no business coming here making a presentation that way. And that shakes my confidence in him to begin with, for somebody to say that the budget was on track before we'd even gone out to bid. Okay, and now, here we are at the 11th hour, and to make all this work, we just have to say aye to the extra $400,000 and accept the usual litany of excuses about the time of years, that who's bidding, et cetera, et cetera. We were all aware of these things before. He should have been. This will go forward, but not with my vote.
Joe, do you want
Question, I think this will be for Sean. Where will the additional funding come from?
We're going to pass it now, or we have to come from
And what position does that put us in?
like I said, you're sitting on, based on the latest audit, you're sitting on about $11.78 million. We have to take $400,000 from that.
And Joe, just to piggyback on that, it means adjustments to other capital projects related to the priority of what we want to do. It means possibly not doing the garage in the near future. It means tightening our belt a little bit as far as how much fund balance we use to plug the budget this year. It really just comes, in my opinion, comes down to priorities. If this is a priority, we can make it work. We certainly have the resources to do so. If it's not, then we don't.
Thank you.
I would just like more time to, like Legislator Duchesne says, I mean, to make a $400,000 or $500,000 decision so quickly, I can't support that, and I won't support that. I think that I don't want to be pushed into spending $400,000 or $500,000 based on timing. I think that's inappropriate. I think that we had a short window to have further discussions on that and still be able to go forward. But I just don't think it's a good decision to support making a $400,000 or $500,000 decision based on knowledge of it of a short time period.
So, obviously, we're not happy with the money. You've done some projections, I believe, on what this building's going to do for us in regards to saving us money, right? If I can ask the question. I mean, at the end of the day, and I know it's not a popular decision to make, but at the end of the day, we do this project. I know what the numbers are now, even though I don't care for that. On the other hand, there were 3 that did come in a little under. I probably would say that might be because they were more specific. The general contractor is the general, but we know the number. We know the devil we're dealing with, the number. That's on the positive side, I guess. We don't know what it's going to be when we rebid it in the spring, unless we're just canning the whole project. Canning the whole project, fine, but if you're still planning, if the legislature's planning to move through with it, originally I was trying to ask you the benefit of having this up there and getting getting our offices up there as soon as possible. It's gotta save us money, especially if it means cleaning out that other.
Well, Tom, you're exactly right. I mean, it's part of the larger plan, which is, the first phase was to get public safety consolidated up there, which has been talked about for 20 years.
It's a long time.
And then that will free up, obviously, space to move the annex folks to here, which would be the next step. You know, we were hoping to get this under our belt, done in March, do engineering and architectural on this particular building next year, possibly start that building in 17. You know, our options, if we do push it back, you know, it's going to just take an already long process and make it longer, which I certainly understand and respect. And if we had it earlier, we would have gave it to you earlier. We got the information on Friday afternoon. That we asked them to do their review with the bidders, and you know, we got, you know, I apologize for that, but you know, that's just the devil we're dealing with. But you're right. I mean, we could wait. We could come back in the spring. It could be the same project, but it could be more expensive.
I mean, I understand what everybody's saying, and I don't disagree with them. I mean, you know, all valid points, you know. Again, I guess I've been listening to this, how long we're gonna do this forever, and I see us that close, and what's, you know, 400,000 is a lot of money, but in the grand scheme of things, is it? And
I mean, my personal opinion is, I mean, I'd like to see the project move forward because I want to see our larger plan executed, and it's going to take many years to do so.
one other question. What do we have in place for change orders? Because every one of these projects I've ever been involved with, somebody's got a change order. And I mean, so what do we have in place for that? And I know that there's no telling on what else is out there and what we're gonna run into, but what's the,
There's contingency money built into all 4 of these contracts, that at the end of the contract, if it's not used, it's reverted back to the county by a change order.
you wanna move, I mean, your position is you wanna move forward with it, you wanna keep going?
I'd like to move forward with the project, given the larger plan, as if we don't do step 1, it's almost a step 2, 3, and 4 are even more of a distant future. However, I certainly, you know, understand and respect the frustration that's out there. I share it. As of Friday at 2:45, I thought this was going to be a pretty straightforward special meeting, and then we, you know, were surprised, which I'm certainly extremely frustrated about myself.
What percentage of the proposal is contingency built in?
What change?
Or the change?
Yeah, roughly 5%.
5%. And how many bids did we get back?
How many bids were received?
Yeah.
For the general construction, we received 5 bids.
You were looking for 8 to 10, right?
We know that there were 8 general contractors that had bought the plans and specs. So we were anticipating at least 8 bids. We had 5 bids. The low bid was the 2,578. The high bid was $3,100,000.
Do we have that information here?
It's not. It was on these huge sheets, so we didn't reproduce them.
Well, why bother talk about it at all? And just tell us to vote for it and leave it at that.
I think one of my questions is that I don't even know how we're going to approve this without knowing where the extra money's coming from. Do we have enough approved for this project to cover this? Or do we have to make a transfer?
There'd have to be an amendment with a transfer.
There would have
Well,
to
then
be.
how are we going to
Because
approve this?
Because the nature of the special meeting, what was put on there could not be changed. It would require an amendment from the floor tonight, or we could, you know, if it was the wishes of the board to take another week to think about it or to develop a consensus, we
Well,
could bring it up next week.
I would like a little time to think about who's gonna get cut and what's gonna get cut if we go forward with this. You know, I think that should be thought about. So we have to find $400,000.
What do you mean, who's got?
Well, whether it's a capital budget, you know, out of the capital budget, we gotta find the money, or take it out of the general fund. But we should decide that at some point, you know, we should talk about that.
Barb, then Brian, do you speak?
Thank you. I mean, it's our job to vote on whether it's 400,000, 4,000, whatever it is. We're the purse, so it's our job. Whether it's yes or no, that's what it is. And I respect even when I disagree with what that choice is. So I would have no problem if we wanted to wait another week to have it, but I think that this is a big decision that time is sensitive right now. This is a consolidation for services, for the county, for the betterment. While I personally do support that aspect, I respect my colleagues in their opinion on trying to find more information. So if needing another week is needed.
Brian, then Joe had a question, Bob had a question? No? Okay, Brian, then Tom.
My question is, there's currently a county RFP out there for the development of a county office building facility assessment plan that's due back at the beginning of September. Is this going to, how will this interact and interface with that RFP and those bids coming back? At all, obviously we could still move forward with the facility plan, but would it be premature at that point? Just a general question.
I think we're going into that RFP with the assumption that, for example, probation will not be in this building, it'll be up on the hill. So I would think it would literally, if we're not moving forward on this, we're not moving forward on that.
And then just to summarize and put my thoughts out there on the floor, you know, this is not ideal. We don't want to, you never want to see something come in over budget like this. But we're in the beginning of the project and we're not seeing a $400,000 change order next March, so that's one good thing about it. But we all decided, well, this body decided that it was a good idea to build this public safety wing. The bid didn't come back as we expected it. Whose fault that is, wherever the false hope came from, we decided that that was a priority, that we wanted to get a shovel in the ground this fall because we were taking a proactive approach to county facilities, which hasn't been done in 20 years. So it's not an ideal situation, but to say that we're not going to move forward with it because we don't like that the engineering architecture firm gave us false hope, I think that's shifting the blame onto them when it's ultimately our decision as the legislature to decide if this project is worth merit. And in my opinion, we already decided that when we moved forward with the project. This is not ideal. The chances of the bid going down, I mean, I wouldn't put money on it. If we went back and bid it out in the spring, I don't think it's going to change. So given, yes, if we take a week and think about it, I think that would be appropriate. But to say that all of a sudden the project's out the window, we should have known whether somebody came in here and said it was going to be dead on what they projected or not. We should have known that there's always the chance of a high bid or a low bid. And we decided that this was a priority project for the county. Just because it came in high, I think we should decide on that alone, because it came in high. I don't think you're ever gonna see a lower number on the general construction bid. So I think it's, ultimately, the decision is what we decided, in my point of view, what we decided last year of saying, we wanna build this is important for the county, is that still true? If not, then that's how you vote, but it shouldn't be based on what the engineer and architect said.
Yeah, I won't repeat what Ryan said, it's how I feel. Terry had talked about the money a moment ago. Sean, if we took $400,000 from our general fund, or our fund balance, and later we decided to cut money that was already appropriated from capital project, that money can be transferred back to that line, right?
What this would do would affect future capital plans. It wouldn't affect the current capital plan you have in place.
If we were talking about capital money, but if we had another, if other money came available to us, however, you can always take it and replenish it back into, that's the point I'm making. I don't, as far as a week from now, I agree with what Ryan just said. I mean, you're either gonna do the project or you're not. And a week isn't gonna change my mind one way or the other of whether or not I ever wanted to do this project. It isn't gonna change the $400,000. We all know what we're dealing with. We like it now, but I don't have a problem moving forward with it tonight.
I think Mr. Chesky was before me.
That's fine.
I'd like the luxury of having another week. I think that it's prudent to do that. And I'm not against doing this project. I support doing this project. I think it's a needed project, but I don't want to make a $400,000 or $500,000 decision on a night's sleep. A question I would have is, how are we making out with the FEMA money, the reimbursement? I mean, certainly that would be an interesting.
Yeah, I think as of late last week, I think we now agree on what the approved projects were. What they're working on sending me now is what payments were actually made to the county based on that disaster. And so then once we know what we were due and what we actually received, then we'll know where we stand with the final number.
Yes, I'd like to address some of the remarks by my colleague from the 4th District there. I don't think that because you voted in support of this project, that means that you give up your right to make decisions based on new information, and especially when that information is sketchy at best. We don't have the engineer here to explain exactly what's happened. He certainly was capable of explaining why this was not going to go over back in May. I remember very, very clearly what he said to me. And I told you before that my confidence is shaken in him simply because he did that. He said he has never experienced this. So now this apparently is some extraordinary circumstance. Surely based on extraordinary circumstances, we can exercise our ability to vote yea or nay, even though we may have been in support of the project to begin with.
Any other questions?
We either move forward and you put the amendments in, or at very least wait a week. I don't think it's going to change my mind, but I would be in support of, it sounds like there's a few that would like to wait a week. It's not going to put it that far back, and I would suggest at the very least we do that. Wait a week, and to Duke's point, maybe the engineer comes to that meeting in a week, or plus we have the numbers, a little more. Maybe we have another plan in place for monies that we may take, and maybe the week's not a bad idea.
I just want to repeat one more thing, because it's really disconcerting. The reasons that we were given for the bids coming in high, they're the usual that we've all heard before. That would seem to indicate to me, it seems to make the argument that the person who was putting the bid proposals together and telling us how much it was going to be at the end point was not aware of any of these things. He didn't know what season it was. He didn't know how many people typically bid on these things. He has whether or not they're busy. He has no idea. He just got caught cold there.
I'd just like to say 100% agree, and I think we should keep that in mind moving forward as we need engineers and architects, and keep that in the back of our mind.
I did ask him, didn't I?
Oh, no, I distinctly remember the conversation. And I was as surprised as you probably that there was such a definitive answer. And moving forward, I think we keep that in the back of our mind that occurred.
So whatever we do, I still need a sponsor in a second, whether we table it, vote on it.
I'll have 4 resolutions.
Yes. So the first resolution that I'll need a sponsor for is a resolution awarding electrical and firearm contract.
Sponsor.
Ryan, seconded by Quackenbush. Discussion on the resolution.
Like to make a motion to table until the regularly scheduled board meeting on Tuesday, August 25th.
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained? All right. Next is a resolution awarding HVAC contract. Look for a sponsor and a second.
Sponsor.
Tom? Barb? Discussion?
Move to do the same thing.
Seconded by Barb. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained? So moved. Next is a resolution awarding plumbing contract. I need a sponsor and a second. Tom? Bob? Discussion?
Is that another resolution to, I'm sorry, what is that resolution, what are you moving?
This is the third one.
There are
So this
4
would be the
contracts
plumbing and
total.
heating.
Right, same thing off the table?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
All 4, I mean.
Yeah.
Who's sponsored table?
Uh,
We haven't gotten
We
that.
haven't gotten to that.
I'll motion to table.
All right, Bob and Tom. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Oh, you have discussion?
No, there's-
Wait, no? Oh, okay. All opposed? Carried. Next is a resolution awarding general construction contract.
Sponsor.
Second.
Discussion?
Motion to table to the next special meeting on August.
Next board meeting.
yeah.
Second.
Board meeting, not special meeting.
Yeah. Discussion? All those in, do you have discussion?
Well, afterwards.
All right, all those in favor of tabling?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained? All right. You have something, or you want?
Yes, I just wanted to reaffirm, are we going to have the engineer here for the August 25th meeting?
I think you should have all the information that everyone's
Okay.
looking for.
Well,
Part of that is
Can
the
we see if
engineer.
that could be possible? Thank you.
Yeah, I'll
Okay.
call him and request that he be here next Tuesday.
Well, yeah, and he can focus on the general contractor, why that was so high, and if there's any options to work around that, keep the other 3 and maybe possibly rebid just the GC.
Yeah, the only issue with that, Terry, is the other, these are also set to award within 45 days.
Okay.
So if they're not awarded within the 45 days, they would all have to be rebid.
Okay.
Sure. If we're going to invite the engineering firm, can we also invite Winchester? Would that be appropriate?
The construction manager?
Yeah.
I can request that they be here as well.
At least extend an invitation.
I think we should tell them they should be here.
Yeah.
I mean, they ought to, no, I don't want to, I think it's my personal opinion, I don't think we should invite them. We should tell them they need to be here. Somebody.
Paul, could we also get a spreadsheet side by side with the bids, what the perceived bids were expected at, what they are, who they're from? We'll get a breakdown on the spreadsheet with that, like in the next couple of days.
Sure.
Thank you.
Anything else? I'll look for a motion to adjourn.
You got it.
Second.
You're up.
Okay, let's call to order our Public Safety Committee meeting. Are there any discussions here? Oh, I gotta use this? Are there any discussions? Just one yawn? That's not bad. Yes, right.
This is, I haven't been at a public safety committee meeting in a couple months.
Yeah.
But it's something, and actually I just heard it the other day, some fireworks went off. Could we at some point ask whether it be a full board or committee, I would like to have a discussion here amongst the legislature and the county sheriff on the law we passed earlier this year.
Discuss the fire, what's the matter? You didn't like the fireworks? Or?
I was frustrated with the enforcement of it, not the law itself.
Technically, the enforcement was very weak. But not only from the sheriff, it was
I'm more frustrated with the state. I mean, why would you allow things to be sold that you didn't legalize?
Well, you're going that far now. You're going even farther on that one.
So I just like, to have a discussion and see, it was.
Who would you like me to invite?
The sheriff, please.
Okay.
And then we can see where it goes from there.
Okay.
That's all.
Any other discussion?
Yes.
Okay. We only need a sponsor for this resolution.
Yeah.
I'll be the sponsor.
I'll say.
Terry? Barbara? All right, and this is a resolution to accept the grant. We have Bill here tonight, which is very nice. Welcome.
Thank you.
And I think some of us just have questions. You sent me this very nice legal decision that I am not a lawyer, so I can't understand. So if you can explain it to us, I would appreciate it, okay? Basically what you're going to do with the funds, that's all.
Well, just a little history, and we can gavel me if you want.
I won't do that.
In 2006, Judge Judith Kay, Chief Judge of the Court of Appeals, she commissioned a study of the public defense throughout New York State. And in 2006, the commission submitted a report to her. And they found a number of deficiencies across the state. They felt it was a patchwork system. There was real no uniformity. And they made certain recommendations to the judge. In 2007, the New York Civil Liberties Union filed a lawsuit against 5 counties in New York State and the state of New York. And the name of the case was Harrell Hardy. I had some handouts. They're not really necessary, but if anyone wants them.
Really didn't help me that much, so.
So what this case was, the case, in fact, it's just a little side note. I got a phone call in 2006 from somebody in Albany that basically was asking me, will you help cooperate with us so we can sue you? Truthfully, they were looking for counties. They wanted to expose the weaknesses in the patchwork system across the state. Montgomery County was not included, but 5 counties were. And the case wound through the court system, and in October 2014, they reached a settlement. And these 5 counties are now required under the settlement to meet certain standards. In 2010, I gave the chairman a copy of the state law that enacted the Office of Indigent Legal Services. That was 2010. This is the office that's now giving us these grants, okay? They're charged with oversight over the entire state of New York. And they're trying to impose a kind of uniformity on the counties. They're trying to ensure that there's quality representation. And the way they're implementing that is these 5 counties are kind of leading the charge now. They're imposing caseload reductions. One of the things that they're going to require, and Judge Lippman of the Court of Appeals, Chief Judge, he's been very adamantly behind this, is counsel at first appearance. And that's something that New York State, we've never done. But they want us to start doing that. And honestly, I've discussed this with other public defenders in the area. I don't know how. Some of the counties are starting to do it. But just as a practical matter, if there was somebody was arrested in the town of Minden at 2 o'clock in the morning, somebody would have to be available to go out to the town of Minden and appear with his client. And I'm not saying it can't be done. They want it done. They're moving. There's a push to do it. So right now, we don't have the staff to do that. I just can't figure out how to do it. Somebody would have to be on call 24 hours a day, or we would have to have shifts to do that on top of all our other responsibilities. So the point I'm trying to make is that these are changes that are coming, and we have to do it. When I started this job in 1998, there was 2 of us that handled the whole county. Tony London from Belgium, and we handled the whole county. I'm sure that you remember the police station in the city of Amsterdam. It was on a postage stamp next to Toledo Diner. They had the court and this police station, and that handled everything for the city of Amsterdam. Not anymore, no way. And it's just over the years, it has changed so much. And me personally, when I started, there was no administrative. We just spent all our time doing criminal cases and in court and meeting with clients and that kind of thing. I had no administrative. But over the years, it has really changed. And it's like, if, I ignore these emails that I get daily at my own peril, that there's constant things coming across that require my attention. So the point I'm trying to make is that it's changing. And the state is requiring these changes. And we're going to use these funds, if you grant us this, to try and implement what the state is trying to get us to do. They want us to quantify the changes, the number of cases that we're handling. And I gotta tell you, you have no idea the difference that has been made by these grants already. Family court was a nightmare. It was just so much. And then we got a grant, we got a new lawyer in there, and I can't tell you the difference in that. And just the grant that we had, we got a new attorney in January, and the difference that one lawyer in the criminal courts has made for me is I can't express to you the difference. Because increasingly I have more and more administrative responsibilities. It gave me a chance to get out of Amsterdam City Court and spend more time on the administrative aspect.
Can you tell legislators how many you have now, attorneys working?
We have 5 doing criminal and 2 doing family court, including me.
Okay, and has that been relatively constant, or has that changed over the last few years?
Well, we had a new attorney come in January, and then the last one before him was about 2.5, 3 years ago. But that was not a grant. That was the county hired this person. But it's been required.
So will this money keep things status quo, or will you be able to expand, or what's it going to do?
It will keep things status quo. Basically, this is designed to ensure that the people that we've hired are going to be able to continue in the position.
You're not going to really be able to expand too much with this, then, right?
Right.
Okay. So Constant, he
Right.
plays constant, okay.
There is a grant that we don't, apparently is not before you tonight, but it is to hire another part-timer. So, like a quarter timer, it's not enough to hire a full part-time, but, so, yes, this is to keep it going what we have.
Okay, are there any other questions here maybe that anyone has?
I think he explained it very well.
Okay, and no one else has a question? Ryan?
I do.
Roy?
Nope, I'm good, I'm ready to support.
And Mr. Chairman, do you have a question?
Now, this grant isn't going to be used to just increase somebody's salary.
No, no.
So it could help offset the county's burden
Well-
on salary.
Yeah, no, this grant's not gonna increase somebody's salary, no.
Yeah, I mean, we have a very tight budget coming up, and we don't know where all that's gonna be yet, so. Any other questions? Do we have somebody that wants to move this to full board?
Move it to full board?
And all in favor? Anybody opposed to that? Okay, well, thank you very much for coming down. Didn't hurt at all. At least today it didn't anyway. Any other things for discussion? That's it?
That's it. You're off the
Then I
hook.
gotta do this?
Motion to adjourn?
What's that?
Motion
Motion
to
for,
adjourn.
motion to adjourn, yes. Sorry about that, I always forget that one.
Barbara said.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll call the Health and Human Services Committee to order. Does anyone have any business before the committee? Anything they'd like to address? If not, we have two resolutions this evening. The first is allowing the county executive to sign a claim form for a class action settlement. Pretty straightforward thing. Can you amplify this a little bit?
This is kind of like the one that we had come through a couple months ago. Public Health keeps getting all of these faxes that are unsolicited. There's all these class actions that are coming because of that. Then they get the claim form. We'll get a small nominal settlement in exchange for not suing these people who are sending faxes.
Apparently the fax did not contain an opt-out notice as part of it. And that-
Chair, or maybe Megan, I noticed that the last whereas says that we're bound by the terms of the settlement. Do you always review is there a chance that there's something in this settlement that binds us to something that we don't want to be bound to, or is it just a money thing?
All that means is that you would agree to accept the money. And well, it's the terms too, but essentially it would be a release of the claims, which the claims in this lawsuit are all.
But you see all
separate.
those. I mean, you see
Yeah.
all those, so you know what the terms are. Is it something that's...
Yeah, we're not agreeing to give up any.
We want to take care that we don't have a harder time accepting money than spending it. All right.
It's yeah, we're not giving up any kind of crazy rights. It's just in
So
regards to the
will
law.
someone move that to full board? Second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. The second resolution authorizes the county executive to sign an agreement amending the operating budget, Transportation Initiative Program, Department of Social Services. This comes up through your recommendation. Can you address the board, please?
Thank you, Chair. This is the Transportation Initiative Program. It's a program that basically puts clients who have full-time jobs or have found employment into a vehicle. It takes away transportation as an obstacle, is what it does. You see in the resolution, it used to be called Wheels to Work. That's exactly what it does. Fullmont Community Action has been our contractor. They do very good at advertising that program. It's not easy just throwing keys to somebody. They actually have to go through a training course. There's a lot of wickets they have to jump through. Then they have to actually maintain that employment for a year. If they don't, the car comes back. They also work, Fullmont works for reputable car companies, and they try to wheel a deal where we get 2 cars for 1. So they really maximize the use of at $40,000, they really get a lot out of it as far as automobiles. So I think it's a good program. You know, it's not given to every county. It's only rural counties that have, you know, have challenges like we do, where we have jobs from one end of the county and none on the other. So Fulton got an award. I think Montgomery got one. Schoharie used to. They didn't get one this year. So the money kind of was spread out a little better for us.
And this has no financial impact on our budget. This is
pass-through money, as we
Pass-through.
said, and then we manage it. Fulmont basically gives us vouchers, and we pay them as they get cars.
Thank you.
If we didn't have this, somehow we would be paying for a ride somewhere.
Or people don't go to work.
Right.
Yeah, you pay for it.
We would be somehow, so the impact is positive for us.
It is.
It is.
And this is wonderful. I know people that were involved with Wheels to Work. That was a wonderful program. So I love hearing that it's still continuing under the auspice of the guidance of the county. So this is great. I know people really used it, and there are, I guess they had to jump through. So they appreciated it, but it wasn't just something given to them. They had to earn and go through. Thank you.
Yeah. I just want to say I'm on the Fulmont board, and the Wheels to Work is a very good program, and I back it 100%.
Thank you for your assistance. Appreciate it. Always appreciate it. Someone move this resolution? Thank you.
I'll make a
Ray.
motion to,
Okay, and the second?
Or I'm not on the committee.
You can send me, you can't vote.
Please.
Barb's got it. Okay.
Bart?
Okay, with the full board?
Yes.
Thank you. Anything else? We're adjourned. Motion to adjourn. Somebody has to do that?
Yes.
I keep forgetting. Okay, thank you.
I know. It is.
I need that part out. Good evening, everyone. I want to call the Economic Development and Planning Committee to order. I'd like to first open up to discussion, if there's any discussion from any legislators or anybody that wants to make remarks. I'll have two things that I'd like to discuss, but I'll open it up to everybody else first. If there's no other comments, just for discussion purposes, last week we had a tour of the industrial parks. I think it went very well. I think we also, we got the opportunity to talk to the members of the supervisors of Fulton County at the same time. I went to a meeting that Ryan had last week about the industrial park and the bypass. It was very well attended, and it was very obvious about how the people in Ryan's district feel about it. I was wondering if we could have a discussion about how we feel as legislators about, one, I want to separate the two because I think that most importantly to me is the regional business park. I'm just wondering if anybody had any discussion in support or against.
I guess I would, you know, one, thank you, Bob, Terry, Duke, and Barb for being there. And it was a very well attended meeting. I was very happily surprised, and there was a lot of good feedback. As far as the bypass is concerned, just want to remind everybody of the public information session tomorrow evening at 6 p.m. at FMCC regarding the bypass study. But when it comes to the regional business park, I just want to add a couple thoughts. You guys have heard my spiel, and I think we've all kind of discussed it, but the very real possibility, I think what we need, from my point of view, what we need to be discussing here is the very real possibility of this potentially moving forward without us. And there were some comments made that there would be roadblocks to that, and frankly, I'm sure you know, others could add to if they want. But if these property owners want to have services, water and sewer services from the city of Johnstown, if Montgomery County, if the town of Mohawk says no, they can go to court, and in almost all cases, they are granted their wish for annexation. There was a comment made at the very end about zoning of the property is zoned agricultural, so it couldn't be used for industrial purposes, but if it was annexed into the city of Johnstown, it would be up to the city of Johnstown to set the zoning for that and grant any variances to it. But I guess that's just kind of my point of view on this is, you know, it may not happen, but it very well could happen without us saying yes or no. And I think that's just something we should all have in the back of our minds when making a decision on this.
Thank you. Anybody else? If I could
No,
make some comments. I mean, I think it's certainly an opportunity to increase revenues for the county, albeit we're not going to be experiencing 100% of the revenues. It's 50% of the revenues for an extended period of time. I don't see that the county itself is in a good position to not work with Fulton County on this. I think the fact that Fulton County tied up site control with this, with options on the property, kind of leaves you without anything that you can do with it. To add to that, we don't have the infrastructure there for us to develop it. So, not that I like adjusting the county boundaries for any reason. I support this for those reasons. Barbara?
To separate the two, I absolutely support the business park. It was a great tour, loved it from the beginning of the exit 27 to going up to the business park. One of the transportations that they put in the map was the railway. So there were other ways that they could bring material up other than just tractor trailer, which I loved seeing. Also, the sewer and water were a stone's throw compared to bringing all the way down to Montgomery County. So the bypass, attending the meeting in Mohawk, which I'm very grateful to Legislator Whites for doing. I don't support, I don't think it would come to fruition, but I do think that they are absolutely separate entities. And I think that working with Fulton County would be an absolute asset because being regional, we're stronger together. So thanks for giving the opportunity for us to give our input, because that's what we heard when we were at Mohawk, that they wanted us to give our voice. So thank you. I won't be able to attend. I have a family matter, unfortunately, but thank you.
Terry?
I just want to say, with all this, I'm very disappointed with Fulton County. And the reason I say that is we have a bypass that they want to implement. It goes right through good farmland. We have a business park that I'm not sure yet if I'm going to support. By the way, I'm totally against the bypass. I think it's a waste of taxpayers' dollars. And we also have 280 some acres of farmland that's going to be used for a regional park. And then on top of that, we just find out a couple weeks ago that they're going to zero out cooperative extension. So basically what they're doing is turning their back on the farmers. And I just don't get it. I just don't get it, because here we're trying to do a regional park for business, but yet what's our top business in Montgomery County? Agriculture. And this is what we're doing? I'm just very disappointed.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah. I need a little more information so I can understand this a little bit better. I understand that the former Board of Supervisors decided not to be a part of this, of the study, so we really don't have a lot of sway here. But how does the industrial, the proposed industrial park in the bypass, how do those two things get conflated? How are they exactly tied together?
If I may. You know, I think they're projects, they're two independent projects, but they're located immediately adjacent to each other. And while they would have an effect on each other, they are independent. And, you know, I think obviously the bypass is looking at alleviating truck traffic right outside our window here, and the regional park would be accessed through Route 30A right outside our window here. But when the regional park was first discussed back in 2006, 2007, there was no thought of a bypass then. And when the Johnstown Industrial Park was put in, there was no talk of a bypass then. And so we have a truck traffic issue because of the Johnstown Industrial Park. However, they're independent. I think they should be judged independently. And the only thing that I would add is when the regional park was first brought up in the early 2000s or mid 2000s, they were looking at locating manufacturing there. And the one thing why I bring that up, and ideally, if moving forward, manufacturing were to locate there, two things. You're talking better paying jobs than distribution and less truck traffic. The big concern with truck traffic is the distribution center in Johnstown, the Walmart distribution center. It's the same way in Fultonville. The truck traffic through Fultonville is from the distribution center in Sharon Springs, or in Schoharie County. And it's not the manufacturing interest businesses that are generating a tremendous amount of tractor trailer traffic. It's the distribution sites. And I think moving forward, if this regional park does move forward, I would like to see manufacturing go in there for a number of reasons, but the alleviation of truck traffic because of that.
But isn't the size of the proposed park being much larger than what we have available here? Isn't that really doesn't it suit itself to distribution, and it could entice distribution?
I guess I'm probably not the best one to ask that question to, but yes, it is. It's a site that we don't have that much contiguous land anywhere else, with maybe the exception of the Exit 27 park that, but again, I wouldn't be the one to ask on that. In theory, distribution, spread out, look at Target. I mean, it's a large facility, but you know, the site, the regional business park proposed site, I mean, that's a site that could potentially locate something like a Global Foundries, a large manufacturing facility, or something along those lines. You know, distribution, you're using a lot of space to store stuff, but manufacturing, you're using a lot of space to produce stuff. You know, I don't know if there is a big difference in space requirements, but that's the best I can.
So I could just address that, John. I mean, if we don't have the space, we're not going to attract anybody. We have the space, or Fulton County has the space, or as a regional park we have the space. You have something that can attract people, and you have to be shovel ready. If you're not shovel ready, you're 2 or 3 years out of the box, and you're not going to attract anybody. I think, I believe your first question is the separation between the connector and the park. I just think there's so many issues dealing with the connector that are not appropriate and take advantage of Montgomery County landowners that I could never support it. Anybody else? Sure.
Okay. I first of all, Bob, I want to thank you for bringing this up. I think just to Duke's point, we can speculate what could go in there, and but the bottom line is we really don't know. It could be something where there is traffic, truck traffic, there isn't. The earlier studies that were done in a partnership with Fulton and Montgomery showed that the rail access is a viable the rail is a viable option, the rail spur. But I think, you know, one key point that we need to focus on here is that in our regional business plan, it calls for the development of both small and large shovel-ready sites. We just recently had a situation with one of our other sites where we were shortlisted. We were at the end of the game working on a lead, and we actually didn't make the final two because the size of the site. It would not allow this particular company the room for expansion. So why is that important? That is important because at this current time, the county does not have that large site capacity or that inventory of an industrial site. And when you look at the county, this is our one opportunity for that large site. And oftentimes I've read in social media and you hear it at public hearings that, well, why don't you fill out the other sites before you focus on this site? The problem is you're not comparing apples to apples. It's apples and oranges. You know, yes, we do have an inventory of some small sites. We're pursuing leads in each and every one of our business parks right now. But the bottom line is those big leads that come in and that could be game changer type situations that are going to put people to work and really have the chance to be transformational in nature, we can't even play. And on the bus trip, we really nailed home that point. When we went to each site, talked about the history of the sites, talked about Glen, talked about Florida, that's really the message here, is that we don't have that large site. And this is a tremendous opportunity for the county to balance. And I think the issue of the bypass and the regional park can show how this body, along with the executive team and the administrative team, can strike that balance and have the vision for the future on how we can keep that rural character and protect the county when it comes to our rural character, and say no to something like a connector, where I personally, and Ryan and I put up a letter, don't feel that that is the right fit for Montgomery County. Yet at the same time, value economic development and value trying to provide opportunities for people moving forward. So, I've had many private conversations with the legislature, which has been overwhelmingly positive and supportive for this project. But we are at a point now where we are looking for some direction from you as far as pursuing a revenue sharing agreement with Fulton County, as far as working out some of the legal details, because things are moving, as related to annexation. So what I would like to see, I mean, it's no mystery how I feel about this. I feel this is our single greatest economic development opportunity, and I will stick with that till the last day I'm in office, and I'll fight for this project. But what we really need to know is the legislature going to, do you want us to pursue those legal details and that process moving forward as far as drafting up a revenue sharing deal for your consideration? It's going to be considered in Fulton County this month. As far as, and we've had a fantastic, even though we've had some differences, and I certainly, that has happened in the last couple of days with the connector, but that relationship is still strong, and we both feel very strongly that now's the time to move forward with hammering out some of these deals, or these, not deals, these, the legalities of it in terms of a revenue sharing agreement. And the time is now to go from supporting the concept to really saying, you know what, we want to get this shovel ready, we want to partner with Fulton County, we want to make that something that we're on the record, and we want to move forward with it. So that's my question I pose to you. I know we've had, like I said, a number of private conversations with each and every one of you where, there's, a lot of support for this park and getting it shovel ready. because we can't play in the game of these transformational projects unless we have this site. So that's the direction that I'd like to see, at least some feedback, you know, because you know, the time is now.
Let me just add that, I'll tell you right now, I support the park. Okay, I think there's some things that we have to work on as far as revenue sharing and things like that. And I'd also like to bring into the mix, if possible, some sort of road maintenance sharing agreement with Fulton County. If we're experiencing more truck traffic through where we have now, I mean, Fonda and Fultonville are really taking the burden of the infrastructure there. And it might be a good idea to talk about the possibility of a maintenance sharing agreement.
Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead.
So what might be the mechanism whereby we could start to work with the county executive in that regard? Just as, for instance, you brought up a concern. So now's the time to bring up those concerns rather than when some agreement is already crafted and then we show up one night and get the Hobson's choice again. So what might be the mechanism that whereby we can work that out? What are you looking for? What are you looking for?
I mean, right now, you know, because this was something that was thought of, you know, in the mid-2000s, we have some templates, revenue sharing agreements. We understand what Fulton County is looking for. Really, it's ultimately at the end of the day, that's an intermunicipal agreement that's going to require your approval. So really, what we just need is your input and on those specifics, length of the agreement. You know, we feel pretty strongly that a 50-50 partnership is positive, but whether it's we work through the Economic Development Committee or you know, the input is provided and we negotiate with Fulton County to come to something.
Well, I would think the structure has to come from the executive office and the other economic development offices, et cetera. But we just need to be made a part of that so we know what's going on as it happens.
Ken, is there anything you'd like to add to the discussion that you think we're missing?
No, just to give you a little background, because Brian did allude to it, the idea of the regional business park concept and working with Montgomery Fulton County did occur back 2006. I think we started that. There was a project out there called Oceans 11, which was a manufacturing project at the time. And I think it's important at that time because I was in on discussions with our counterparts in Fulton County about that process, and along with New York State DOT, there was never any discussions that for that project to come to fruition that there would be a need for a connector road. So that's why the development of this park and the connector study are two separate issues, and they're definitely not inclusive. I will tell you, as an IDA, and it's no secret, as an IDA, we work with Fulton County, and we've done roughly $100,000 in engineering studies in relation to the regional business park site. The further the studies that were done back in 2006, 2007 to see the viability and the feasibility of that site, those studies were done. We did wetland delineations to our wetlands like there are any place in Montgomery or Fulton County that we have to come across. SHPO, archaeological stuff, there was nothing red flag there. We did a feasibility study in relation to the rail. We know that it can be done. We work with CSX. They're willing to give us a rail siding in Fonda. Should the need warrant, depending on the end user of the site, we know the costs associated with that. We're at the point now where we are clearly getting to the point of almost shovel ready, except for the potential agreements in place. Fulton County IDA, just to give you a little bit of background, the original options back in 2006, 2007 went through the Crossroads Incubator Corp at the time. Those options have been transferred over to the Fulton County IDA. There are two property owners involved in the 280-acre site, and we can potentially anticipate that any time you could potentially see a petition for annexation from those property owners. So I think that's kind of why we're here a little bit. That time may be of the essence to really start getting your feedback. I've given you everything on the regional business park and studies and the regional business park plan. We did the tour. I gave you guys background information on what was presented on the tour. And basically, as county exec alluded to, too, we do have sites. Our biggest site can accommodate about 750 to 800,000 square foot facility, which is the Florida Park Extension site. That is shovel ready to go. That was the site that we were just recently shortlisted on. It lost out to, we were ranked third. And one of the reasons for that is that the company that we were dealing with was concerned about any potential expansion opportunities, because if you look at the site plan, it took up pretty much every usable acre of that site. I will tell you that on a monthly basis, we get leads through our site selectors, through New York State, in relation to projects that are over 800,000 square feet in size. And right now, we do not have a site that we can show them to even get in that game and respond to. And when you see that come through and you see some of the investment numbers and the job numbers associated with that, you can't respond to that as an economic development office and as a county. We should be concerned about that. I mean, it's really important and critical that we're able to respond to those. We would be able to respond to those jointly with Fulton County should the regional business park come to fruition. We've done traffic impact studies on the regional business park. I will tell you, those are done. And one of the reasons that justifies why the connector, they're both mutually exclusive at this time, is that with some minor improvements to the existing road network, and all we're talking about is that it's fixing some of the geometry of existing intersections and adding some traffic control devices, we can get up to about 1.23 million gross square foot manufacturing facility on that site. With those types of minor improvements to the existing corridor right now, without any bypass or connector, whatever you want to call it. So, I just think it's important that we, on the executive level, get some type of direction from the board as to, do we proceed forward with Fulton County and working out some type of agreement and laying it out.
And just one more quick thing, I apologize. As many of you know, I've been working with Tony Vicenti's MB 500, 6-county region, competing for the 500 million. We certainly, feel very strongly about our chances. But, one of the problems that the smaller counties all have, and it's that Oneida doesn't, is we need help on the front end, and we need to get these sites shovel ready. So then we can attract that private company and show the state that 5-to-1 private sector, public sector match that they're looking for. So that's a 5-year plan. To get moving on this now, and we've certainly included in our discussions and in our plan that we're going to be submitting and outlining moving forward, this is a signature item for this county as far as I'm concerned, and we've incorporated it as such in that plan so that hopefully, we can partner with the state when we do get down the road of that being shovel ready to the point where we have leads coming in, and then we can partner with the state to bring in some of those funds that'll be needed to get a project to pop. So just wanted to let you guys know that that's a part of the MB 500, as well as some of the other things, some of the big issues that we face, like beach nut and some of the other CFAs that we've done this year. So just wanted to throw that up.
And there's nothing I think is important to understand with real property tax revenue. I mean, you always hear a lot of complaints about the truck traffic through bond and everything. But right now, the Johnstown Industrial Park and all those sites in Fulton County, they're in the final local school district. They generate 20% of their budget. That's substantial. That's substantial. This would only add to that. So does that help the taxpayers in the town of Mohawk with their school district taxes? Absolutely. That can only increase as to what it could help them. I mean, potentially when this would be annexed into Fulton County, that's going to remain in the final local school district. But our thoughts are, listen, there's the potential that this could happen without us. I'd rather be on board with them, strike an agreement with them instead of looking 5 years back from now. This goes forward without us, and we're sitting here looking, well, we didn't generate any revenue from that, but the final local school district should generate any revenue. So I mean, that's kind of our stance. We know what could potentially happen.
Okay, we have Terry, Tom, and Ryan.
I'm going to try to make this quick because I think you people that heard me this morning are a little tired of this. I think I would be in agreement moving forward with these parks, but the only thing that bothers me is that, yes, you can list all the good things that will happen with these parks, but we're taking valuable farmland, whether it's in town of Mohawk or town of Florida. If you do any parks, it's gonna be farmland. That's our number one business in Montgomery County. And I think if we do that, there should be some compensation back to the farming community.
You guys work with us, you just asked us for direction. You guys work with us every day. I would like to see you guys craft what you think the ideal language is. Bring it to us, present it to us, tell us what your ideal agreement would look like. Let us comment off of it. I mean, you guys are working with us every day. I'm not. That's the direction that I would give. Second thing, so we have this regional park, and company X decides they may want to come in here. Ultimately, who's that decision maker? Is that mutual?
As far as what?
Well, whether or not it comes in. There may be, I don't know. I mean, is it that all Fulton County's baby at that point? Do we have any say in that?
In answer, if I can answer your question, in answer to your question, obviously the city of Johnstown would be annexed into the city of Johnstown and Fulton County. As Legislator White's alluded to, the city of Johnstown would obviously set up an industrial business park zone that would have allowed uses into that zone. Now, right now, obviously, the industrial business park has the allowed use of the distribution center. With the new 280 acres, will the city just expand that industrial zone to include the potential for distribution centers, or will they exclude distribution centers to help, alleviate some of the concerns that the Village of Fond residents have? I mean, that could all be up for discussion during this whole back and forth that we're having with Fulton County.
So we could be in on that decision making if we wanted to make that part of an agreement?
We could craft that as any part of the agreement. I'll be in negotiating. If that's a concern of the county legislature, obviously we can take that to the negotiating table.
Well, I'm just thinking,
Well,
I'm just thinking there may be something that really, I don't know. And
Tom, that's been a concern of Mayor Julius, and we've talked about it with him a number of times. He's, as far as the type of end user that would be in there, I think he's mindful as well that, they certainly want to be very careful about such a site and ensuring that it's the right end user. But again, like Ken said, it goes back to the local home rule, right, Ken? I mean, it's a local home rule.
Local home rule, and let's all face it, we don't choose the business chooses us. That's the bottom line.
Ryan, you're,
what?
oh, I'm sorry.
I just wanted to address one thing Terry said about Cornell Cooperative Extension, just so you know this. I mean, I understand, I hear your frustration. That battle's been going on for years, but every budget season, that battle about whether or not Cornell is going to be funded or not funded, or Office of the Aging, there's a certain group out there of those, and Cornell just happens to be one of them. That's been going on since they were back at Sean will tell you, we've been, every budget year,
Well, I just want to add something quick. The question is not us funding them. It's the question whether Fulton County is funding them.
No, I understand. That's been that whole equation has been up every budget season with how much are they going to do, how much are we going to do. I guess the point I'm making is it's not a whole lot to do with the industrial park or the connector, because it's been
We have a farming community here.
All right. Ryan's been waiting. If you don't mind, I'd like to get his.
So I initially had one question for probably Ken, but I do want to add something afterwards, piggybacking kind of off of what Tom and Terry had said. In 2006, 2007, when negotiations were going on between the town and the city and the two counties, what point did the two counties, and I don't need specifics here, or was there a number, a term, in any ancillary terms? Did the two counties come to an agreement?
Two counties definitely came to an agreement in relation to the proportion of real property tax revenue sharing. And I will tell you that at the time, the town of Mohawk and the the city of Johnstown had come to an agreement of the percentage of revenue share. Because how it would work is the county, how it was developed at that time is that Fulton County shared their tax revenue with Montgomery County, and the city of Johnstown would share their tax revenue with the town of Mohawk.
And I recall that they were both pretty well balanced.
Yeah.
But were there any other considerations other than revenue sharing discussed, such as the nature of the business or farmland protection?
We gotta remember, at that time, we knew who the business was, what the nature of the business was, so we didn't have to deal with that discussion because it was such a significant economic development project and who it was that, it was a tremendous manufacturing economic development project that, would have far-reaching effects on the economy of both counties.
And then just kind of two things that popped into my mind when Terry brought up his concerns and Tom his. I've seen a number of times where developments come in and the local municipality, which if it was an X would be the city of Johnstown, may require certain mitigation efforts, whether it be traffic improvements, purely funds that would go into a general environmental impact statement finding report, but also conservation land, improvements to existing recreational facilities. The list, you could go on and on with the potential there. One thing that has come to my mind, just as a thought, we've got 285 acres of agriculturally zoned land in the town of Mohawk. If that's an X, however that proceeds, it's ultimately going to be up to the city of Johnstown to decide how that's zoned and how it's used. Would there be a way, and I don't think you may not have an answer this evening, but would there be some sort of a negotiation that could take place that might include some mitigation efforts, whether it be if you're going to develop 285 acres of farmland, purchase conservation easements on 500 acres of farmland in the town of Mohawk, some sort of balance to mitigate the actual physical development. And then with Tom's discussion, as well as in that negotiation process, if there would be some way, legally speaking, within municipal home rule law, that there would be some local consideration to what was cited there or what it was zoned at. I think those are both legal questions that, we have to wade through, but I think those would be two things that would make at least me feel a lot more comfortable.
Let me answer the second one because it'd be much easier. Obviously that's something that we could potentially control during negotiations.
Mm-hmm.
As far as the first one in the purchase of development rights, obviously you're going to have a landowner because we don't own their property. You gotta remember, we don't own this property. Town of Mohawk does not own these two properties. Those are two landowners that own these properties. And if their intent is, and obviously it is, by undertaking options with the development group, their intent is to sell that for development purposes at a premium. So to answer your question, legislature, you would have to find an agricultural property right now with a property owner that would be willing to accept some type of deal like that for someone to come in and purchase their development rights. I will warn you, we went through a purchase and development right program, and legislator Kelly can talk about this too. We went through a purchase and development right programs here in the county probably about 3-4 years ago. We went through the whole process with a farmer in the town of Florida, and basically what the assessed value of those development rights were were so small compared to what he felt he could get for his land to sell it for even residential development or industrial development, or even sell it as a whole as another agricultural entity. He did not want to take that chance and jeopardize that. And I think legislator Kelly could speak to that as well.
Well, and I understand that development rights can be a very tricky situation, but there is a potential there that if the concern is protection of farmland, it could be done through farmers protecting farmland, whether it be in town of Mohawk or somewhere else that those development rights be located, that could be a potential. If you had a willing landowner.
In the interest of time,
Yes.
Mr. Kelly.
Ben kind of touched on it. It said when producing land is taken out of operation in the agricultural world. But on the flip side, I think something that Terry was talking about with cooperative extension, you know, Fulton County only gave $20,000 for cooperative extension the current year. Montgomery County is picking up the tab for Fulton County residents for cooperative extension. We used to be a 50-50 partner, you know, roughly, and now we're picking up the tab, and it is an important service that's provided to both Fulton County residents and Montgomery County residents, as agriculture is over a $2 billion